Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said the attack on Hamas leadership in Qatar yesterday could end the war in Gaza. It's still unclear if the airstrikes succeeded in eliminating the terror targets.
Well, President Trump criticized the attack on the soil of a U.S. ally. At the same time, he said destroying Hamas is a worthy goal. Chris Mitchell reports from Jerusalem.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu defended the attack on the Hamas leadership Tuesday afternoon.
At noon today, I convened the heads of Israel's security organizations and authorized a surgical precision strike on the terrorist chiefs of Hamas. These are the same terrorist chiefs who planned, launched, and celebrated the horrific massacres of October 7th.
He said Israel acted alone.
On this day, as in previous days, Israel acted wholly independently, and we take full responsibility for this action. And this action can open the door to an end of the war in Gaza.
Qatar condemned the attack.
The Israeli attack that took place on Qatari soil can only be described as a state terrorism carried out by someone like Netanyahu within the context of these systematic policies and his ongoing attempts to destabilize regional security and stability. This is a clear message to the entire region.
President Trump says he's very unhappy about the attack. Like Israel, Qatar is a U.S. ally, which hosts America's largest military base in the Middle East. In a carefully worded statement, the White House called it an unfortunate incident.
Unilaterally bombing inside Qatar, a sovereign nation and close ally of the United States that is working very hard and bravely taking risks with us to broker peace, does not advance Israel or America's goals. However, eliminating Hamas, who have profited off the misery of those living in Gaza, is a worthy goal.
White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said President Trump spoke with both Israeli and Qatari leaders, agreeing with Netanyahu on the need for peace and assuring Qatar an attack won't happen on their soil again. How many Hamas leaders have been eliminated is still being determined. The terror group claims its top leaders survived the attack, but Israel has yet to make an announcement. The attack comes as Israel is poised to take over Hamas's last remaining stronghold, Gaza City. It remains to be seen what impact this will have on Hamas in Gaza and if this leads to an end of the war and freedom for the remaining hostages. Middle East expert Eugene Kontorovich told CBN News the attack was justified.
This is the beginning of true justice for the October 7th attacks. The people who were killed in today's attacks are the top brass of Hamas. They're the people who organized, who authorized the October 7th attack. They are the Adolf Hitler, let's say, of the Islamo-fascist regime of Hamas. And finally, they're being called to account.
Despite the Trump administration's protest, Kontorovich believes the U.S. gave the green light, and that shouldn't come as a surprise.
It's only a surprise because we're still not used to taking President Trump at his word. He said yesterday there needs to be a complete end of the war. There needs to be a release of all the hostages. Hamas needs to stop with its excuses. This is his last ultimatum. There'll be consequences.
Well, CBN Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell joins us now live from Jerusalem. So, Chris, how does Israel believe this strike could lead to the end of the war in Gaza?
Well, one thing, Gordon, they couldn't do is demoralize Hamas leaders inside Gaza. What this strike does is maybe take out the middleman. Those are the Hamas leaders in Qatar. The leaders in Gaza City right now, they basically have everything to lose. Many of them are deep underground, nowhere to hide. And many of their command centers, and what you're seeing in the last week or so, these towers in Gaza City are being taken down one by one. So perhaps, hopefully, prayerfully, this could lead to the end of the war and the freedom of the hostages. And many here, Gordon, see, as Kontorovich says, they're seeing justice for October 7th. And there was a promise at the very beginning of the war that Netanyahu made that they would come against all these Hamas leaders.
Well, earlier in the week, we've heard, ultimatums, our president saying they have to come to a deal, and this is their last warning. Then their response that they will never lay down their weapons, that is something they can never negotiate away, they can never surrender. So those two things, didn't that make this strike somewhat inevitable?
It would seem so. And the two demands that they made was that there would be a permanent end of the war and that the IDF would pull out of the Gaza Strip. Those are two non-starters for Israel. And so it did seem like there was going to be a meeting, an ultimatum, as it were, that Israel would have to do what it needed to do to end the war on its own terms.
Well, what do we know about the success of the strike? Hamas is saying the leaders are fine and it didn't hit them. What are you hearing in Jerusalem?
Well, right now, Gordon, we're hearing it's unclear. I mean, the more it goes on, Israeli leaders seem to be a little bit pessimistic that they may have failed to eliminate the top leaders. We do know that 5 lower-ranking members have been killed. We don't know if Steve Witkoff had warned the leaders itself. What we're seeing right now on your screen is what happened on October 7th. These leaders, and many of them that were targeted yesterday, were actually celebrating October 7th and watching live on Al Jazeera TV what was going on, or the massacre on October 7th. I would say, regardless what's happening, whether or not they were eliminated, Gordon, it's really a defining moment for the region. As I was talking to one analyst earlier today, he said that Israel speaks Middle East and it acts Middle East. And what that means is it's really becoming the strong horse in the region. Remember, Gordon, Israel has eliminated the top leadership of Hamas in the Gaza Strip, Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Houthis in Yemen, many leaders in Iran. It's a long way from October 7th. But Israel is really acting like the strong horse in the region and doing what it needs to do to eliminate those leaders that are threatening the survival of the Jewish state.
Well, Qatar is being it's kind of sort of unimaginable to me that they're being presented as some kind of neutral party in this and even a victim of it. But they've hosted Hamas leadership now for decades, and they've supplied a lot of money to Hamas. What's not being reported about Qatar?
Well, as you said, Qatar's been sheltering these leaders since 2012. Yigal Karman, he's been a regular guest for us from memory.org. They translate exactly what Qatar says. He says Qatar is Hamas and Hamas is Qatar. They have a long-term relationship. They've funded Hamas to the tune of about $2 billion for the last many, many years. They used to provide $30 million a month for the administration. Somebody said today that Qatar is really a bank with a flag, but it's a big bank, and it supports Hamas, ISIS, the Taliban, Al-Qaeda. They're all part of the Muslim Brotherhood. They've invested billions in U.S. universities, all in an attempt to divide, conquer, and implode Western civilization. That's what many people don't realize about Qatar. They've supported all these goals. In 1991, there was a memo, Gordon, that was put out, and the Muslim Brotherhood wants to establish a global Islamic state. They're secretly planning that, and Qatar is really, through its billions of dollars, is trying to openly enable the establishment of that Islamic state on the global stage.
Why don't leaders in Europe and the United States, the so-called Western world, why don't we ever seem to really get that? That, here you have this picture of the leadership of Hamas, and they're watching the October 7th attack on television, and their response is to bow and pray and say, Allah Akbar. I mean, it just seems to be an incredible demonstration of the ideology behind this and why there always seems to be sheltered, whether that's in Lebanon or in Iran or in Egypt or in Gaza or in the West Bank. It just seems to be a continual thing within the Islamic world. And we don't ever seem to recognize this is a threat to our very way of life. Why is that?
It's a hard question to answer, Gordon. I'm not sure why people don't get it, but they need to realize that Israel right now is sort of on the front lines of Western civilization, fighting for its survival because of all this Islamic groups trying to destroy it. But they're not just trying to destroy Israel. They're on their way to the United States. Even right now in the U.S., there are many imams that are calling for an elimination of Israel. But people really need to wake up and realizing the threat that Israel faces and the United States.
Do you think President Trump gets it? There's been reports that the strike wouldn't have happened unless the U.S. gave some kind of green light. The initial report from Israel is that the U.S. was read into the strike. There's some reports that somehow or other there was a message to Qatar in all of this. Is he trying to play both sides of the street?
Well, certainly trying to thread the needle between two allies, Qatar on the one hand, Israel on the other. I was talking to someone earlier today, and he said Israel wouldn't strike a country with an American base without first coordinating and getting the blessing of the U.S. And so I think that many people believe that the U.S. knew about what was happening and gave the green light to some extent. Netanyahu, by the way, attended last night's July 4th ceremony here in Jerusalem. It was rescheduled because of the war with Iran. So many people believe there must have been some coordination between Israel and the United States. And by the way, Ambassador Mike Huckabee was there. He plays a mean bass, Gordon. And also Lee Greenwood was singing, how proud to be an American here in Jerusalem.
It's quite a celebration, July 4th, a few months later, but that's okay. Chris, thanks for your insights and thanks for the report.